Morning, guys. Welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation. I'm Owen James. This is your Rangers news update, guys. Look, we're going to talk Rangers managerial coaches hunt kind of thing. We'll talk about that this morning in the video with Danny Rohl purportedly after, well, it was rumoured 3 ex-Rangers men, but apparently now it's just 2, as one appears to have ruled himself out of the reckoning. Obviously, the big news yesterday. Now, look, I know this is a Rangers channel, but I suppose this is news that kind of directly affects us in a way. Obviously, with Sunday coming up, the Old Firm semi-final, Rangers taking on Celtic in the League Cup semi-final. But it will be a Brendan Rodgers-less Celtic, as it was announced last night that Brendan Rodgers has resigned as Celtic manager. Yes, the Timplosion has begun. Martin O'Neill has been placed in temporary charge, interim charge of Celtic. I don't know how long for. I don't really care how long for, but that's apparently the situation. O'Neill, who's probably pretty much failed in every single job that he's had since the Celtic job, takes over from Brendan Rodgers. Now, what's even funnier kind of thing has gone on is that then Brendan Rodgers kind of resigned, citing the whole board debacle, the Champions League debacle, the Dermot Desmond debacle, all this stuff that had gone on behind the scenes, and lots of things going on. Obviously, I mean, I haven't read too much into it because I'm not really interested. But then Dermot Desmond comes out today and then absolutely slaughters Brendan Rodgers, as, like I said, everyone turns on everyone and starts the fight with each other. Let's get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. But yeah, look, pretty bad. I mean, pretty bad over there on the other side of the city. Things are genuinely falling apart. And we thought we had it bad with Thelwell and Stewart, and obviously the fallout from the whole managerial. And we thought that was all bad stuff. But hey, guys, what do I know? Look, the Timplosion has begun. And look, I mean, look, we can laugh at this. We can kind of look at this, but you know, they lost 3-1 on Sunday. Obviously, Hearts are top of the league, 8 points clear of Celtic, and and so on. But I think, look, you've got to say at this moment in time, whether you agree with this or not, you've got to say Hearts are now becoming favourites to win the SPL title this season. I mean, you look at the situation, and barring obviously a complete Hearts collapse, it is looking good for them this season. Obviously, a Rangers team that are trying to get back to winning ways. Obviously, did that on Sunday with a very good result against Kilmarnock. Killy are not a great team, but we still obviously, you can only beat what's out there in front of you. Yes, we are still 13 points behind Hearts, and this would require obviously Hearts to kind of collapse a little bit and us to win all of our games probably against Hearts to advance. But look, the situation over the city, we've got to now take advantage of this. This is an opportunity for us to take advantage of. They're going through obviously a period now where they're going to be looking for a new manager. There's obviously a great deal of disquiet, and I think any manager kind of looking at them as a prospect, yes, there was a whole situation over us as a prospect, and obviously the situation with the fans being very angry at times, and then obviously the board and the Stewart and Thelwell thing, and then the Thelwell controlling the transfers thing and all that, reportedly putting the likes of Muscat and Gerrard off the job. Well, over across the city, there seems to be a whole lot of other things going on that is seriously would put people off taking the Celtic job. I mean, let's face it, there's already talk of possible return for Ange Postecoglou. I mean, Jesus Christ, that would be obviously a very interesting one. But look, this is an opportunity for Rangers. It really is an opportunity for Rangers to take advantage of this situation, to kind of, look at how now that they have kind of moved away from Brendan Rodgers. Brendan Rodgers is gone, and it gives us the opportunity, I think, to kind of, take a little bit of a bet away from them, to kind of push them further down now, and they're in a weaker spot now, and it gives Rangers an opportunity. It really, really does. You look at their odds. Obviously, Postecoglou's up there, Edin Tersic's up there, Kjetil Knutson's up there. That would obviously sting with some Rangers fans who wanted Knutson as our manager. But look, at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for Rangers. It really genuinely is a very big opportunity for us to kind of put them back in their box. Now they're going to obviously looking for a new manager this season. And it kind of makes it even a bigger shame, doesn't it, looking back on it, that we made such a bad start to the season. Had Rangers had a decent manager in charge from the very start of the season and not some absolute vegan wannabe, maybe we'd be in a better position to actually go on and actually win this title this season. Who knows? The season is very long, but realistically, you've got to look at it, and even with taking your blue goggles off for a minute, you've got to look at it and say that Hearts are the favourites, and will continue to be the favourites, barring a collapse. Which doesn't look like it's going to come at the moment. They have played exceptionally good football and played exceptionally well, and Derek McInnes looks to have them in a very, very good place. Right, let's move on. Let's talk some Rangers news this morning. Now, look, it has been reported that Danny Rohl wants to bring in someone from the outside, someone who understands the culture of the club, someone who gets the football club. That was his words. That's what he said. That Rohl said this. He says, I will try to bring a former Rangers player with good background here as well, because for me it's important to take this advantage from a guy who knows Rangers, who knows the league. Why should I not use this? This would be a perfect setup for me. I have 3 or 4 candidates in mind. I collect the information. I think it's also important to have the right person to your coaching team, but I think at the end we will make a good decision. So it's clear that Rohl wants someone who gets Rangers, who knows the club, who understands the culture, the background of the club, who is, for want of a better word, a Rangers fan. Now, I know there are some people out there that will not be happy with that will say, well, we've tried that before, it doesn't work. But it's an interesting one. I think there's always kind of been that need, I think, to have someone who can not only be a link between the youth and the main men's team, but also with the people that come in to the club, and even the signings to some degree that we've got now, to genuinely make them understand what it is to play for this club. And this is a special club. This is not like anywhere else in the world to some extent. There is this expectation, there is this pressure, a cauldron, a weight that jersey carries. And as I've said before, people have talked about, in other clubs, you're only as good as your last game. As Richard Goff once said, you're only as good as your last pass at Rangers, and you've got 10 minutes, go impress us, I think, as once Barry Ferguson said. So look, this club is different, and I think having someone in there who has that understanding, has that feel for the culture, feel for the club, can educate those players who come in, the younger players coming through, and also I think to some extent help Danny Rohl to understand how this club works, how the fans think, how, what the expectation is. I think we've all kind of levelled at managers in the past, Clement to some degree with his comments about away games, Russell Martin as well. They don't get it. They don't understand it. They don't understand what it is to be a Rangers manager or a Rangers player. They just don't get it. That's something I think I've heard a number of people say, a number of people comment on videos, comment that. And it's bringing in someone who understands, who gets it. Now, for a long time, the rumour was going round that Lee Wallace was the preferred candidate of Danny Rohl to come in and be a coach within his coaching setup. However, Lee Wallace obviously now apparently has a role within the Hearts setup, and apparently is not looking to move on, and has kind of ruled himself out of any move away from Hearts at this stage of the season. So it seems that name is very much off the list of candidates. Now, the first name on the list of candidates that's come up is Neil McCann. Now, it's interesting that this name has come up again. Neil McCann obviously was linked with a role in Kevin Muscat's coaching staff. It was actually reported at one point that if Muscat was going to get the job and would obviously not arrive till after the 22nd of November, that Neil McCann would be the interim manager until Muscat joined up with the club. Neil McCann was also part of Barry Ferguson's coaching staff as well, and obviously carries a wealth of experience of playing for Rangers. Obviously, has also played for Hearts as well, so would perhaps help for getting an insight into how they work this season. But someone who has worked with the club before, someone who gets Nicholas Raskin, who got the best out of Raskin last season, along with Barry. So maybe that's something else that Danny Rohl's looking at. A man through, his pundit work develops that he has a clear understanding of coaching, a clear understanding of expectations at Rangers. Certainly is an ex-Rangers man, and was a very, very good player for the club. So he's the first name on the list that seems to have come up. The second name that seems to be doing the rounds at the moment is Stephen Davis. Now, Stephen Davis is currently part of Michael O'Neill's backroom staff with Northern Ireland. Of course, Stephen Davis is an absolute legend, a Hall of Famer, a guy who bleeds red, white and blue through and through. Someone who's already actually taken responsibility for the first team. Remember, he led the club for a couple of games, after the sacking of Michael Beale, didn't he? Even taking us for an Europa League game, I think. Davis has obviously got some obviously coaching experience at Rangers already, has coaching experience now working with Northern Ireland, with Michael O'Neill, and certainly is a very, very strong fan favourite, someone who loves this club, who is Rangers to the core, has a real strong belief in the club. And I think a lot of fans have in the past talked about having Stephen Davis as part of the coaching staff. There was even talk around the Gerrard appointment, the McAllister, Defoe and Davis were the dream team to come in and manage the club. That was certainly talked about at the start of the managerial hunt way back when. But Stephen Davis certainly seems to be someone who is on that list and is a candidate that has apparently been spoken to. Now, they're the three names that I've kind of read, I've kind of heard: Lee Wallace, Stephen Davis, and of course Neil McCann. No others at the moment, and it might be that again, the person actually comes from left field. It's none of those people, but they seem to be the strongest names at this moment in time. I've got to say, personal preference, I would love Stephen Davis back at Ibrox and having an active part in the Rangers coaching staff, and I think he would certainly add to that coaching staff. He certainly has the pedigree, the caliber to work, to play for the, to coach the club. I think he would certainly get across to the players, the new signings and the youth players. And I think, with the young players as well, he would certainly command a respect, wouldn't he? This is a guy who's been there, seen it, done it for Rangers, has won trebles, has won titles, has won cups, has been to the UEFA Cup final and the Europa League final, certainly has a vast experience playing for Rangers. So, look, I think he certainly would be someone that is very much worth looking at. But for me, Stephen Davis is my preferred candidate. Well, guys, let me know what you think of the stories we've covered in this morning's video. Thank you for watching Glasgow Rangers Nation. Guys, if you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next one.